A very warm welcome to this video. I am Prabal Nandwani and you're watching the monthly predictions for the month of September 2023. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary changes happening all throughout this month. Jupiter is going to become retrograde on the 4th of September. On the same day, we have Venus turning direct from its retrograde motion in the sign of Cancer. Then we have Sun moving on to Virgo on the 17th of September. And finally, we have Mercury turning direct on the 16th of September. Now, apart from all these planetary changes, we have some planetary combinations which are happening this month. And the first is the opposition of the Sun and the Moon, which results in the full moon, and that happens on the 29th of September. And there's a new moon on the 14th of September, which happens with the combination of the conjunction of Sun and Moon. Now, these two dates are very important because a lot of manifestation work is carried on either on the full moon or the new moon. So when I'll be talking about various signs, then I'll also be suggesting you what you can really manifest this month. However, if you are not very conversant with what manifestation is, I'm making a separate video on it which you can watch and get to know about the whole process of manifestation and its results or repercussions. Alright. Now, apart from this full moon and new moon, we have the combination of Gaj Kesari Yoga, which happens by the conjunction of Moon and Jupiter. So that happens on the 4th and the 5th, the 11th and the 12th, the 18th, 19th, 20th, the 25th and the 26th of September. Apart from it, we have the Mahalakshmi Yoga made up of Moon and Mars on the 15th, 16th and 17th of September. Also, we have the Buddha Aditya Yoga from the 1st till the 17th of September. Now, apart from these planetary changes and these planetary combinations, gods are showering their immense blessings on you in the form of three important festivals which are happening in this particular month of September 2023. First is on the 6th of September, we are having Krishna Janmashtami. Then on the 18th of September, we are having Vishwakarma Puja. And then on the 19th of September, we have the Ganesh Chaturthi. Now, let us move on and see what September 2023 has in store for you for various of the zodiac signs. But before we do that, there are two important things to be understood. First, which sign should you watch for? So when you were born, at that particular time, the ascendant or the moon must have occupied some or the other sign. So that is the sign which you should be looking in for when you're watching this video. Now, the second aspect is that when you were born, there were some planetary combinations existing at that particular point in time, and they also play a major role in deciding your future. So while we do talk about the planets in transit, but this is subject to the planetary combinations existing in your horoscope. Well, that being said, we can move ahead and talk about the various zodiac signs now. First of all, let us take a look at the Aries sign. So let's see where the various planets are placed in your horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. Well, in the first house, we have the presence of two planets. One is Jupiter and the other is Rahu. Then in the fourth house, we have the presence of a retrograde Venus, which gets direct on the 4th. In the fifth house, we have Sun and Mercury. In the sixth house, we have the presence of Mars. In the seventh house, the presence of Ketu. And in the 11th house, we have the presence of Saturn. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. So let's talk about the luck factor first. Luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house happens to be Jupiter, which till the 4th of September is supporting you. But after the 4th, when it turns retrograde, it comes under the influence of the shadowy planet Rahu. And from then on, the luck runs a little low for a few months till the time when Jupiter gets back in the direct motion and gets out of the clutches of Rahu. So, my dear friends, for another few months, if you have got some important decisions to take, I'm afraid you've got to hold them. Let's talk about your health now. The health is seen from the first house, and the owner of the first house is Mars. That is hemmed between two of the malefic planets, which is something to be wary about. Apart from that, Jupiter was present in the first house, but now it will be under the influence of Rahu. So therefore, this particular month gives you lesser immunity power and digestive power, and can lead to fevers and boils and things like those. And if you experience that effect, then you can either pay your obeisance to Bhairav Dev, or you can do the Bij mantras of Rahu. The Bij mantra of Rahu is Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sar Rahve Nama. Once again, Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sar Rahve Nama. Moving ahead and talking about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. Now the owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 5th house, that is the sun, but it will move on the 17th to the next house. But fortunately, it is going to have exchange yoga with Mercury, and therefore it is going to come back to the 5th house, which gives you a good month as far as love is concerned. So in case you were thinking of proposing someone, that yes, this is the right month, just go ahead and do so. And if you're already in love, then it is time to enjoy. Moving ahead and talking about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is right now in Cancer and is not in a very comfortable position. And the 7th house itself is occupied by Ketu, a planet known for misunderstandings and separations. Therefore, a lot of you might be facing such kind of issues. And if that is the case, then chanting the Bij mantras of Rahu is going to help you immensely. The Bij mantra of Ketu is Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Nama. Now, in case you don't want to do the mantra, then you can do Ganesh Chalisa one time in the morning and one time in the evening. However, if it is affecting the health of the spouse, then these mantras have to be done by the spouse and not by you. Alright, let's move ahead now to your education. Education is again seen from the 5th house, and the 5th house has been fortified, and therefore the month offers good prospects as far as education is concerned. Moving ahead and talking about career now. Now, career is seen from the 10th house, and the owner of the 10th house is sitting comfortably well in the 11th house. Now, this is a very good sign. Therefore, in case you earlier had some kind of issues with the boss, some kind of difference of opinion with your boss, then that is going to settle down now, that is going to subdue now, and you are going to gain in your career. This is a good time even for getting a new job. Now let's move ahead and talk about your business life. Now business is seen from the 7th house, and 7th house occupied by Ketu, and owner of the 7th house right now not in a very good position, leads your customers to blame you for something which you never did. And if that is the situation, you just need to know how to handle irate customers rather than giving it back to them. So that is as far as September's business prospects are concerned. Moving ahead and talking about the manifestation thing now. So the new moon happens in your horoscope in the 5th house. So in case you were looking in for some new relationships, in case you were looking in for some for gaining some new knowledge of particular subject, and that has been on your mind but you have not been able to do so for quite long time, then this new moon offers you the chance to manifest it. So in case you don't know much about manifestation, I'll make a separate video. You can get to learn about the process, and then when the new moon arrives, you can do the manifestation for these subjects, and destiny will be supporting you. So let's move ahead and talk about the Taurus sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. Well, in your 3rd house, we have the presence of a retrograde Venus, which gets direct on the 4th. In the 4th house, we have the presence of the Sun and Mercury. In the 5th house, we have the presence of Mars. In the 6th house, we have the presence of Ketu. In your 10th house, we have the presence of a retrograde Saturn. And in the 12th house, we have the presence of Jupiter and Rahu. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for you is something which we are going to look in detail right ahead. Talking about your luck factor. Luck is seen from the 9th house. Owner of the 9th house is comfortably placed in the 10th house and is also retrograde. That means it is giving an influence on the 9th house, which means luck is running high. In case you were thinking of taking some important decisions, just go ahead and do so. Now let's talk about your health. Health is seen from the first house. The owner of the first house happens to be Venus, which is not very comfortably placed in the third house in the sign of Cancer, which gives you reduced immunity. Take care about the liquids you have, and about some kind of hormonal changes might also happen. Some kind of chest infections can also not be ruled out. So be a little careful as far as health is concerned. Now moving ahead and talking about your love life. Love life is seen from the fifth house. The presence of Mars over there is not a very conducive factor because Mars itself is not very comfortably placed in the fifth house. Apart from that, it is sandwiched between Mercury and Ketu. Although Mercury will come to the rescue by and large on the 17th through an exchange yoga happening between the Sun and Mercury, but still there would be a lot of anger tantrums and ego issues which you have to deal with in your love life all throughout the month of September 2023. Alright, let's move ahead and talk about your marital life now. The marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house, in your case, happens to be Mars. Again, that is not in a very good shape because it is hemmed between two other enemy planets. So what this means for you is that there will be a lot of stubbornness on part of your spouse, and there also might be some heated arguments. However, this is going to subdue after the 4th of November when Saturn starts to be direct. Alright, so till then, although there will be enjoyment because Mars happens to occupy the 5th house, which is a house of enjoyment, but for example, you're going to a hotel but the room isn't very nice, or the choice of you and your spouse doesn't match. You're going to watch a movie, but again, you wanted to watch a different movie and she wanted to watch a different movie. So all these silly little things, small little things weighing heavily on your relationship. So in case you can be forgiving, you can have a lot of patience, then this will be a far better month for you. Moving ahead and talking about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Mercury, which is going to come by through an exchange yoga on the 17th to the 5th house along with Mars. Although it's not a very happy combination, but it is good for technical subjects. So just in case you were looking in for doing something regarding maths, regarding engineering, those examinations or those studies or those subjects, then it is a nice combination. So this will prove to be a nice month for you. But other than that, you'll have to work a little harder to achieve your objectives and goals. Moving ahead and talking about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house is placed well in the 10th house and is also being aspected by Mercury and Sun, which means you can get a lot of recognition through your work, through your camaraderie, through your friendship, through your communications, and you will be recognized. Your efforts will be recognized. So this is a good month for you. Now let's talk about the business aspects. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mars, which is not in a very good position, placed in the 5th house, and it is held between Mercury and Ketu. Now this is not a good sign. So in case you were looking in for expanding your business, then this is not the time. This is the time to just maintain and keep retaining your customers. Talking about manifestation. So this new moon happens in your 4th house. So in case you want to do manifestation, then you can do manifestation on these subjects. For example, increasing the peace in your mind or at your home. If you wanted to buy some property but you've not been able to buy so far, then for that purpose. Or you wanted to buy an expensive vehicle but that has eluded you for quite some time. So this is the time now for you to try to do some manifestation exercises in order to make them happen in your life. Let's move ahead and talk about the Gemini sign now. First, we'll have a look at the various planetary placements all throughout this month in your horoscope. Well, in your 2nd house, we have the presence of Venus. In your 3rd house, the presence of Sun and Mercury. In your 4th house, we have the presence of Mars. In the 5th house, the presence of Ketu. In your 9th house, we have the presence of Saturn. And in the 11th house, we have the presence of Jupiter and Rahu. Now, what does all this planetary placement translate for your various aspects of life is something which we are going to discuss right now. Talking about your luck factor, which is seen from the 9th house, and the owner of the 9th house is sitting there, but it is retrograde till the 4th of November. By being retrograde, Saturn watches the 8th house, and 8th house is not a good house for you, and therefore luck is running on the low. And in case you were planning to take some important decisions, it is good that you wait for a little while till November 4th, and after that, luck will favor you for important decisions. Moving ahead and talking about your health now. Health is seen from the first house. The owner of the first house happens to be Mercury, which is placed very well till the 17th. So till the 17th, there is no worry, no problem, no tension. After that, it comes in combination with Mars. So what happens? There might be some kind of digestive issues. There might be some kind of boils on the skin, pimples on the face. So these are the things which you need to be cautioned about. Let's move ahead and talk about your love life. Now, Ketu has been occupying your love house, that is the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is presently not very comfortably seated in the 2nd house in the sign of Cancer. What it means is, because of blame games, there might have been some dissatisfaction and therefore a separation between you and your love partner. And this is definitely not the time to propose somebody. The chances of the proposal getting, accepted are quite low, and therefore you need to bide by your time, be more tolerant so that you can sail through this. Let's move ahead and talk about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. Owner of the 7th house happens to be Jupiter, was very well placed till the last month, and even till this month, till the 4th of September in the 11th house. However, it is turning retrograde and coming back in the folds of Rahu, which is a shadowy planet. So this is not a very, very good combination. So what it does is basically takes a toll on the happiness between the couple, number one. Number two, the health of the spouse is jeopardized a little, and if that is the case, for example, she or he might think a lot. There might be some wind troubles. In Chinese medicine we call it wind troubles, if you have gas, acidity and all. So these are the things which are there on the cards, and in case of any conflicts arising and you want to resolve them, you can do the Bij mantras of Rahu. The Bij mantra of Rahu is Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sa Rahve Nama. Once again, Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sa Rahve Nama. Moving ahead now and talking about your education. Education is seen from the 5th house. Now the 5th house, we have Ketu, owner not comfortably placed, and Saturn watching it. All this means basically is that you need more time to an effort to do the things which you earlier were able to do faster. So put in that more number of hours and then you'll be able to succeed. Let's move ahead and talk about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house will get retrograde and get in the clutches of Rahu very soon, which means this is not a good time to apply for new jobs. It is also not a very good time to go in for new assignments. It is a good time to be wary about the things happening around you, so that there are no conspiracies against you which you don't even know about. Alright, so let's move ahead and talk about your business life now. The owner of the business also happens to be Jupiter and placed with Rahu and getting retrograde, but in the 11th house is not a very bad thing, fortunately. 11th house is a house where Rahu generally is okay. However, the owner is an enemy, Mars, but Mars itself is held between two enemies. So therefore, this is going to prove a good month as far as business is concerned. Now let's talk about manifestation. So this month the new moon falls in your 3rd house. So in case you want to do manifestation, then it will be helpful if you could manifest some things regarding courage, relationships with neighbors, siblings, or if you want to improve your communication, then this is the right time to get it manifested on a new moon night. So if you don't know about manifestation much, you can watch a separate video which I am making on the subject and get to know more about it. Let's move ahead and talk about the Cancer sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. In your Ascendant, we have the presence of the benefic Venus. In the 2nd house, we have the Sun and Mercury. In the 3rd house, we have Mars. In the 4th house, we have Ketu. In your 8th house, we have a retrograde Saturn. And in the 10th house, we have the presence of Jupiter and Rahu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Luck is a very important thing in life. So let's talk about your luck factor. Luck factor is seen about from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house is sitting in the 10th house, but it is going to get retrograde from the 4th, and therefore luck is not running very high. If you were to take some important decisions, it is better that you take a little break, hold on those decisions and come back to them after a few months, especially the 4th of November, I was about to say, because Saturn also does have a retrograde aspect on Jupiter. Alright, let's move ahead and talk about your health now. Health is seen from the 1st house, and there Venus is not very comfortably placed, which might lead to some hormonal issues or, glands not working properly, some kind of chest infections, pain in the legs. So that is what is broadly indicated. Nothing major though. Let's move ahead and talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Mars, but Mars is sandwiched between two enemies, and therefore this is a very uncomfortable position for Mars to be in. So this is not the best time to propose somebody. There are some rifts which can be foreseen in the backdrop. You need to be tolerant. You need not to give heed to what other people say about your partner. Trusting your partner is something which will give your relationship new breath of life. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about your married life now. Now, married life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is Saturn, which has gone to the 8th house but is retrograde. So that is a relief. So in case you were going through a bad patch, these are a nice months till November 4th, that either in spite of the fact that there are some issues going on between you and your spouse, still you decide that you're going to be together and you're going to make sure that you solve those issues. Communication holds the key for you this month. Alright, let's move forward and talk about your education now, which is seen from the 5th house. And the owner of the 5th house, we discussed, is not in a very good position right now, and therefore you'll have to work a lot more, and the result would be little less than what you initially aimed for. Moving ahead and talking about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house. Jupiter was supporting you earlier, but for a few months now it has gone retrograde from the 4th of September, and therefore the people who were earlier helping you will not be in a position anymore to help you, and therefore you need to be on guard. This is the time when generally a person decides to leave a job and to find another one, but this is not a very good time to take that decision. If you do that, then there will be months when you will have to sit without a job, and only after a few months you'll be able to grab a new one. So therefore, if you can just bide by your time, it will be far better negotiation with destiny. Alright, moving ahead and talking about your business life now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is present in the 8th house. Is not a very good combination to be in. Also, it has a hit from Ketu. So at this time, customer retention is the key. So in case some people just blame you, they don't like you, but they like other products made by your competitors, just try to handle them out rather than being blunt about it. You have to be a little diplomatic. If you can be diplomatic, how can you break Ketu? Not by being very transparent, but by being diplomatic through Rahu. So if you can do that, then Ketu's effect will be neutralized and the customers will be retained. Now let's talk about manifestation, my friends. So new moon is happening in your horoscope this month in the 2nd house, and therefore if you're thinking of the progression and the coherence between family members, if you're thinking that how can your wealth increase, how can your speech getting better, if some of you have eye troubles, then how can they be alleviated. So all this month, this new moon, you can do the manifestation on these issues, because destiny will support you, because the new moon will fall in the 2nd house. Alright, let's move forward and talk about the Leo sign now. First of all, let's have a look at where the planets are transiting in your horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. In your ascendant, we have the presence of Sun and Mercury. In your 2nd house, we have the presence of Mars. In the 3rd house, we have the presence of Ketu. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Saturn. In the 9th house, Jupiter and Rahu. And in the 12th house, we have the presence of Venus. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. The luck factor first. The luck is seen from the 9th house. Unfortunately, Jupiter is going to get retrograde and Mars is hen, and therefore the luck is running a little low. In case you were thinking of taking some important decisions, then this is not the right time. You need to hold your horses and let them run back after a few months, when Jupiter gets direct and gets out of the clutches of Rahu. Let's talk about your health now. Health is seen from the 1st house, and Sun is over there till the 17th. Even after the 17th, when it goes to Virgo, it will form an exchange yoga with Mercury, and it is going to come back to the Ascendant, and therefore immunity power is assured. Moreover, Mercury is the 11th Lord and the 2nd Lord, and therefore you're going to gain this month. Somehow there is going to be some income and increase in wealth. These are good times as far as wealth is concerned. Alright, let's talk about your love life now. The love is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house happens to be Jupiter, is a 120-degree relationship, a positive relationship, a positive aspect from the 9th house to the 5th house, but the power of Jupiter is decreasing because it is going in the fold of Rahu, and therefore, my dear friends, it is not a very good time to give new proposals. If you are already having a relationship, it is not a good time to suspect your love partner. It is a time to trust. If you can do that, then all throughout the month of September 2022 and even after that a few months more, you'll be able to have a smooth sailing in your love relationships. Let's move ahead now and talk about your career. The career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house happens to be Venus, and Venus is comfortably placed in the 12th house. However, the sign is not very nice. Although the house is very nice, the sign is not nice. So what does it lead us to? It leads that you don't take a new assignment, because the 3rd house from the 10th house means a new assignment. You should not go in for a new assignment, because you will not be able to perform well in the new assignment because of the jealousy of your colleagues, because you're not getting enough resources to perform. So it is not that you don't have the skills, but you don't have the resources because you're not given that. So be a little careful, otherwise it will result in a blame game. You're getting blames for what you didn't do. Okay? Alright. Moving ahead and talking about your business now. Now the business is seen from the 7th house, and the 7th house we have the presence of Saturn. Also it is being aspected by the Sun and Mercury. Now this is a very, very good time as far as business is concerned. If you were thinking of expanding your product lines, expanding your geographical locations, then this is the time to do so. Now let's talk about the manifestation which is happening in your Ascendant in this month. So therefore, if you are looking in for doing something about your health or something about the faster progression of you in life, then this is the time to do so. So on the new moon, do a manifestation for health or progress, and luck is going to support you. Let's move ahead and talk about the Virgo sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. Well, in your Ascendant we have Mars, in the 2nd house we have Ketu, in the 6th house we have the presence of Saturn, in the 8th house we have Rahu and Jupiter, in the 11th house we have Venus, and in the 12th house we have the presence of Sun and Mercury. Now what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to see right ahead. Talking about your luck factor. Now the luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house happens to be Venus. Venus is sitting in a very good house but not in a very comfortable Rashi. So luck is average. So in case there is something once in a lifetime thing you wanted to do, just hold back for a little while. But otherwise it is an average time, so you might even just go ahead and do that. Let's talk about your health now. The health is seen from the 1st house. The owner of the 1st house happens to be Mercury, and through an exchange yoga it will come in the 1st house from the 17th, but it will be with Mars, and right now it is in the 12th house. So it means that the immunity power is reduced a little. You might be suffering from high BP problems, fever, infections, boils, or some things like those. And in case that happens, then you can do the Bij mantras of Mars, which is going to prove immensely beneficial for you. What is the Bij mantra of Mars? It is Om Krang Kring Krong Sa Bhamaya Nama. Once again, Om Krang Kring Krom Sa Bhamaya Nama. Of course, there are separate videos on this on my YouTube channel which you can watch and learn the correct pronunciation of the Bij mantras of Mars. Moving ahead and talking about your love life now. Now, love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Saturn, which is there in the 6th house, causing rifts, but it is retrograde. So there is a chance of getting lost love back. However, this is not a very good period for giving out new proposals. Also, in case you're receiving any proposals, they might be people who are not very seriously involved with you or who don't want to be very seriously involved with you. Because although Mars is aspecting at a 120 degree, but it is not in a very good position. So people who are might propose to you this month might have some weak character, or they might not be very serious about you. All right. Let's move ahead and talk about your marital life now. Now, marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Jupiter, which is placed in the 8th house and also going retrograde, getting in the clutches of Rahu. Not at all a good sign, which means there are bound to be some misunderstandings or bad health of the spouse. And if that happens, then doing Bij mantras of Rahu will become very important. Of course, if there is ill health of the spouse, then the spouse has to do the mantras. In case of misunderstandings, even you might do them. So what is the Bij mantra of Rahu? The Bij mantra of Rahu is Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sar Rahve Nama. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about the career prospects now. Now, career is seen from the 10th house. The 10th lord is in the 12th house, and after a while it will go through an exchange yoga to the ascendant and meet Mars. So in case you are in some kind of a technical job, then it is a good time for you. But if you are not in a technical job, then you might face opposition from the boss, or you might face opposition from your colleagues. So that is something which you have to guard against. Now let's talk about your education. The education seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house getting to the 6th house is good for competitive examinations, but not otherwise. For other things, you'll have to work a little harder to achieve the objectives which you had set for yourself. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about your business life now. The business life is seen from the 7th house. Owner of the 7th house unfortunately has gone to the 8th house and getting retrograde on the 4th of September and getting in the clutches of Rahu. Not at all again a good sign. So competition will be high, enmity will be high. It is important for you to retain the customers by being diplomatic and polite. The next thing is about manifestation. What can you manifest this month? So the new moon happens to be in the 12th house. So in case you wanted to go abroad but you have not been able to, in case you wanted to pay off your debts but you have not been able to, in case you wanted to get out of hospital or jail in which you are in, some of you of course, then this is the time for you to get your dreams manifested, because new moon happens to be in the 12th house this month for you. Alright, so let's move on and talk about the Libra sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planetary placements throughout this month. So in your first house, we have the presence of Ketu. In the 5th house, we have the presence of Saturn. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your 10th house, we have the presence of Venus. In the 11th, we have Sun and Mercury. In the 12th house, finally, we have Mars. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Talking about the luck factor. Luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house is sitting comfortably in the 11th house till the 16th or the 17th. So till then, it is a good time for you. If you had to take some important decisions, you can take those. After that, it meets Mars in the 12th house. So that will not be a very good proposition and a position to be in. Then you'll have to wait for those decisions to be taken for luck to support you. Okay. Moving ahead and talking about your health now. Now Ketu is occupying your first house, which means that there might be some problems related to the backbone, that is cervical, lower back issue, urinary issues with knees or feet. These are the issues where there might be some blockages, or you might have a lot of tension. And if that is the case, then you can chant the Bij mantras of Ketu. The Bij mantra of Ketu is Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Nama. Om Sram Srim Sram Sa Ketve Nama. Moving ahead and talking about your love life. Now, love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 5th house and is also retrograde. So it is time for you to get back your lost relationships. And also in this particular month, if you are receiving any proposals, so esoteric astrology principle says that you might get a partner, a love partner with whom you already had love relationship in some kind of a past life. So that is interesting for one. Okay, so moving ahead and talking about your marital life now. Marriage is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mars, which is placed in between two enemies, which is not a good sign. Also, Jupiter's presence was there, but on the 4th it is getting retrograde, so it will not be helpful anymore because it will be under the grips of the shadowy planet of Dragon's Head or Rahu, and therefore there might be rise in suspicions and hearsay which need to be treated well. So trust your partner, and in case your spouse gets bad health because of placement of Mars in the 12th house and Rahu in the 7th house, then you have to do prayers for Lord Narasimha. Moving ahead and talking about education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. Owner of the 5th house is sitting in the 5th house and is being aspected by Sun and Mercury, which is a good thing. It gives you a superlative performance, a better result than you initially expected. Let's talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. Venus being posited over there is not a very, very good thing because Venus happens to be the 8th lord and is also not very comfortably placed in the Cancer sign. So there might be some blames which might be thrown at you. So if you are blamed for some things, then you need to be really cautious about. Be a little proactive. Talk to other people around and get to know what is going on as far as you are concerned. And get to know about the conspiracy first so that you can nip it in the bud. And if ever those things come, don't shout back, but try to absorb and come out with plausible reasons. And with the plausible reasoning, you will be able to thwart these bad effects back. Also, you can play an emotional card because Cancer is an emotional sign. So how can you expect me to do this kind of a thing? I am always with you, for you. I am working late nights, etc. So some kind of an emotional blackmail can also work. All right. Moving ahead and talking about your business now. Let's see. So the business is seen from the 7th house, but the owner of the 7th house right there in the 12th house, and Jupiter getting retrograde in the grips of Rahu in the 7th house. Not at all a good time for business. So although things might be looking very nice, but ultimately they don't turn up well for you. You send a shipment, but somehow the ship drowns. You send a shipment, somehow the people don't pay you back. So you will be in huge amount of debts then. So it is better to be doubly sure before you start a new venture. You should evaluate the nefarious designs or the mischiefs or the hidden agendas of your competitors or people who you interact with. All right, so this month, the new moon happens to be in your 11th house, which is a good sign. So the manifestation which you can do is for increasing your income, for increasing your friends and social circle. Luck will support you and you might succeed in your manifestations if these are the issues on which you do manifestations on. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about the Scorpio sign now. Let's have a look at the various planetary placements in the Scorpio horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. Well, in your 4th house, we have the presence of a retrograde Saturn. In your 6th house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your 9th house, we have the presence of Venus. In your 10th house, we have the presence of Sun and Mercury. In your 11th house, we have the presence of Mars. And finally, in the 12th house, we have the presence of Ketu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Talking about your luck now. Luck is seen from the 9th house. In the 9th house, we have the presence of Venus. Venus is not very comfortably placed over here, and therefore the luck is running a little low. If there were some important decisions which you had thought of taking, then this is not the right time to do so. Talking about your health now. Health is seen from the first house, and the owner of the first house happens to be Mars. Mars is hemmed between Mercury and Ketu, so this is not a good time. You need to drive slow, you need not to talk on the stairs, you need to offer prayers to Bhadrakali. Otherwise, there might be, some of you might face some kind of backbone issues or knee issues or issues related with the feet. Let's move ahead and talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Jupiter, which is there in the 6th house and is also losing its power because it is going to get retrograde on the 4th of September and come under the grips of Rahu, the shadowy planet. And therefore, it is a time for blames and suspicions. So in case you can take down the blames, take down the suspicion and start trusting your love partner, then this will be a good time. Otherwise, I don't see a smooth sailing. Let's move forward and talk about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Venus. Venus is transiting the 9th house presently and will become direct from the 4th. So things are trying to improve, but still there are blames, and these blames need to be overlooked. And only then we'll be able to run through smoothly in our marital relationships. Also, for some of you, there might be some kind of a long travel involved, which might lead to a temporary separation between you and your married partner. Okay, let's move ahead and talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, and the 5th lord is there in the 6th house. This is not a very good combination to be in, so you'll have to put in a lot of effort to make sure that you reach your educational objectives. Let's talk about your career now. Career is seen from the 10th house. The sun is sitting there till the 17th. On the 17th, it will move to the next sign, but due to an interchange between sun and Mercury, it will come back again to its own 10th house, and therefore career is good for you. You might gain some PR, nice performance review, performance appraisal, a letter of appreciation, all those things. Your work starts to get recognized. This is a good time as far as your career is concerned. Now let's move forward and talk about your business. Business is seen from the 7th house. Owner of the 7th house happens to be Venus, which is not very comfortably placed in your 9th house. So there might be some kind of damage in the production if you have a production lineup, and there might be some blame games, people blaming you for not your fault. We did not order this bloody thing, we ordered a better thing, although they might have ordered the same one and you might have tried to give the better version. So the better way out in this kind of a situation is to handle the customer rather than giving it back to him. So if you can train your employees or yourself on how to handle irate customers and how to handle people who are unnecessarily blaming us because they happen to be our customers, then you can have smooth sailing. Now, in the month of September 2023, the new moon is going to happen in the 10th house, and therefore good subjects for you to manifest this month would be, a better job and a faster career progression. In both these issues, destiny is supporting you. Alright, let's move ahead and talk about the Sagittarius sign now. Let's have a look at the various planetary placements in your horoscope throughout the month of September 2023. Well, in your 3rd house, we have the presence of Saturn. In your 5th house, the presence of Jupiter and Rahu. And in your 8th house, we have the presence of Venus. In your 9th house, we have the presence of Sun and Mercury. In your 10th house, we have the presence of Mars. And in the 11th house, we have the presence of Ketu. What does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right now. Talking about your luck factor first, my dear friends. Luck is seen from the 9th house and Sun is comfortably placed over there. And although it moves to the next house on the 17th, but it forms an interchange yoga with Mercury and comes back to the 9th house. So this is a good time as far as luck is concerned. If you were to take some important decisions, then be assured that luck is favoring you. Let's talk about your health now. Health is seen from the 1st house. The owner of the 1st house happens to be Jupiter. Now Jupiter currently, from the 4th of September, is going to get retrograde and going to come in the clutches of Rahu. Now this is not a very good sign, so you need to be careful about any kind of bacterial infection. However, the immunity power is there because a 120-degree aspect from the Sun is already there on the on Jupiter and on the Ascendant as well. Alright, let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house is unfortunately sandwiched between two enemies, and therefore this is not a very good time to give out new proposals. In fact, you'll have to move your way through conflicts. So forgiveness holds the key for your love relationships. Talking about your marital life now, marital life is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house happens to be Mercury. Mercury is comfortably placed till the 17th, when the sun moves on to the next sign and forms an interchange yoga, because of which Mercury is going to come to the 10th house and have a fight with Mars. And therefore I said there would be arguments. But the arguments are going to take place after the 17th, and therefore before that it is a very good time. Enjoy it. Alright. Education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. Rahu over there was helping you to gain multiple degrees, but now Jupiter is going to get retrograde and come in the folds of Rahu, and therefore it is going to cause distractions. So you need to be sure that you are not getting distracted by other subjects other than what you really need to concentrate on. That holds the key for your success this month. Moving ahead and talking about your career now. Now, career is seen from the 10th house, and in the 10th house we have the presence of Mars, which is creating a problem over there. And therefore, there might be some difference of opinion between you and your boss or you and your colleagues, especially because Ketu also lies in the 11th house, and this is definitely not the right time to make a different career move or find a new job. Let's talk about your business now. Business is seen from the 7th house. The owner of the 7th house is comfortably placed till the 17th, and therefore there is something important to be done, some important transaction to be completed. Try and do that by the 16th of this month. Talking about manifestation now, the new moon happens in your 9th house this month, and therefore in case you do manifestations related to significations of the 9th house, this is going to prove beneficial. So for example, you want to increase your luck factor, you want to have a nice relationship with your father, and you want to increase your spiritual quotient, then for that, this new moon night will prove to be immensely beneficial for you if you do the manifestation on that night. Let's move ahead and talk about the Capricorn sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the various planets which are transiting in your horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. We have Saturn transiting in your 2nd house, Rahu and Jupiter in your 4th house, Venus in your 7th house, Sun and Mercury in the 8th house, Mars in the 9th house, and Ketu in the 10th house. Now, what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we're going to discuss right ahead. Talking about your luck life first. Luck is seen from the 9th house, and 9th house is being occupied by Mars and is sandwiched between Mercury and Ketu. So this is not a very good time. Luck is running a little low. If you were to take some important decisions, it is better that you hold your horses and take those important decisions after a few months. Talking about your health now, the owner of the health, the owner of the 1st house happens to be Saturn, which is there in the 2nd house and is retrograde. So the health is fortified. There is not much to worry about as far as health is concerned. Talking about your love life now, love life is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Venus, and Venus is not very well placed in the 7th house. That means that in case you already have a love affair and you want to propose for marriage, then this is not the right time to do so. Just wait for a couple of months, 1 or 2, and after that, if you propose, the chances will be a lot more for acceptance. Now, in case you were looking for a new love relationships, that is okay. The chances are 50-50, nothing major. And let's move on and talk about your marital life now, which is seen from the 7th house, and the 7th house is occupied by Venus. So although there might be some entertaining activities, like you and your spouse going for a movie or going for a short trip somewhere or doing some kind of entertainment, but in those entertainment activities there might be some kind of difference of preference. So you like to eat Chinese, the other person might like to eat Italian, and you might have a feud just because of this reason. Small little things marring your happiness. That is something on the cards. So you need to appreciate the taste and preferences and the individual personality of your spouse. Okay, so let's move ahead and talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house is not very well placed, and therefore you need to work really harder to achieve your your goals. And also you need to focus. There might be some instances of distractions, some guests coming in the house or where you live, and therefore you're not being able to study a lot more. So the situation will be sweet, but you will be distracted. Alright, let's move ahead and talk about your career now. The career is seen from the 10th house. Ketu's presence in the 10th house makes you go like, I don't want this. I don't want to do this job. I don't like this work. I don't like this boss. I don't want to work for this company. These are all the things which might happen to you, but this is not the time for you to change horses, because Jupiter is going to get retrograde, and until it is retrograde, it is not going to lead you to a better opportunity. So it is far better, in the wisdom of things, if you can wait for a little while, bide by your time, take it slow, and then make a change, then make a shift. It will prove to be beneficial for you. Let's move ahead and talk about your business now. Now, business is seen from the 7th house. The 7th house currently is being occupied by Venus, which is not a very good thing. Apart from that, in case we see the 11th Lord, Mars, that is also not in a very good position. So business is weak. So if you try to explore new products or open new businesses, then that has a very bleak chance of getting good success right now. However, if you can wait for some months, then things are going to get better, at least 2 months. Alright, let's talk about your manifestation now. So the new moon happens to be in your 8th house this September, and therefore if you do the manifestations related to the significations of the 8th house, that will prove beneficial for you. And some of the things which you can do for manifestation related to the 8th house are like, you have had a lot of misfortune, so you'd want the misfortune to end. You want to get hold on occult subjects. You want to research better on a particular thing. So these are the subjects in which if you do manifestation, then you will get success in this September. Alright, let's move on to the Aquarius sign now. Let's first of all have a look at the various planetary placements throughout the month of September 2023 in your horoscope. Well, your first house is occupied by Saturn. In your third house we have Rahu and Jupiter. In your sixth house we have Venus. In your seventh house we have Sun and Mercury. In your eighth house we have Mars. And in your ninth house we have the presence of Ketu. So what does all this planetary placement mean for various of your life aspects is something which we are going to see in detail right now. The ninth house first, because the luck is a very important thing, and the luck house has been occupied by Ketu, which is not a very good thing, and the owner of the ninth house is also not very well placed in Cancer in the sixth house. Luck is running low, my dear friends. You need to bide by your time. This has been so for the past few months. Just unnecessarily your love life must have ended, some of you of course, just like that. Some good things must have paused. Some good job you might have left, some nice opportunity which you might have not taken or said yes for. These all things happen when the luck is running so low. However, there are good things also which might be happening, but if there are some important decisions to be made, then this is perhaps not the right time to do so. Let's talk about the health factor now. Health is seen from the first house, and Saturn in the first house is very good. However, it is retrograde till the 4th of November, and therefore there might be issues with your backbone or generally feeling low energy because of Ketu's 120-degree aspect, or some kind of cold issues or problems with the legs or problems with the knees. These are some of the things which you might encounter. Let's talk about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house, and the owner of the 5th house happens to be Mercury. Till the 16th it is placed very well. After that it will come in an exchange yoga and meet Mars. That will not be a good thing. So in case you were planning to give some proposals, do that before the 16th. If you were planning to have an enjoyable trip, do that before the 16th. That will prove to be good for you. Let's talk about your marital life now. Marital life is seen from the 7th house, and the 7th house is occupied by the 7th Lord till the 17th, and even after the 17th, due to an exchange yoga, it will come back to the 7th house. Sun is going to come back to the 7th house, and that is something good. So marital life is good this month. Let's talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house. The owner of the 5th house happens to be Mercury, and Mercury is posited well till the 17th. So in case you were to take some important examinations and you have a choice, then do so before the 17th so that you get better grades. After that, you'll have to work a little harder to achieve the same objective. Let's talk about your career now. Now, career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house is in the 8th house, and that too sandwich. It is not at all a good time. In fact, you have to be wary of any kind of conspiracies against you. People might be bitching about you. So you need to be open as to what is happening. Alright, let's move ahead and talk about business now. Now, business is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Sun and Mercury. So this is a good time as far as business is concerned. If you were thinking of exploring new options, then yes, you may go ahead and do so. Talking about manifestation, this time in the month of September, new moon happens to be in your 7th house, and therefore you can do manifestations related to the significations of the 7th house. That means if you are not married, then I want to get married, you can manifest this. If you want to open up a business which you want to be successful, then you can manifest about this. If you have court cases and I want the court cases to end, so you can do this kind of a manifestation. So in all these cases, luck is favoring you. Let's move ahead and talk about the Pisces sign now. First of all, let's have a look at the planetary placement in your horoscope all throughout the month of September 2023. In your 2nd house, we have the presence of Rahu and Jupiter. In your 5th house, we have the presence of Venus. In the 6th house, we have the presence of Sun and Mercury. In your 7th house, we have the presence of Mars. In the 8th house, we have the presence of Ketu. And finally, in the 12th house, we have the presence of the mighty Saturn. What does all this placement mean for various of your life aspects is something that we are going to discuss in detail right ahead. Talking about your luck factor. Now, the luck is seen from the 9th house. The owner of the 9th house in your case happens to be Mars, which is sandwiched between enemies, and therefore this is not a good time as far as luck is concerned. If you were to take some important decisions, better just postpone them to about 1 or 2 months later. Let's talk about your health now. Health is seen from the 1st house. The owner of the 1st house happens to be Jupiter, which is going to get retrograde and come into grips with in the grips of Rahu. Now, this is again not a very good sign. You need to be a little careful regarding bacterial infections which you might get. In case you get that, then doing of Rahu's Bij mantras will be far more beneficial for you. The Bij mantra of Rahu is Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sar Rave Nama. Om Bhram Bhrim Bhram Sar Rave Nama. Talking about your love life now. Love life is seen from the 5th house. In the 5th house, we have the presence of Venus, which is not comfortably placed over there. This will give rise to blames. You need to give discount. You need to forgive your love partner. You need to trust your love partner. That is very important. Next is your marriage. Let's talk about marriage now. So the 7th lord happens to be Mercury, but in the 7th house we have the presence of Mars. On one side we have Ketu, on the other side we have Sun and Mercury. So this is not a very good time as far as marriage is concerned. A lot of arguments can be seen. You need to be patient. You need to be forgiving. That holds the key for a good marital relationship. And in case the health of the spouse is compromised, then praying to Lord Ganesha and Lord Hanuman are going to be beneficial for your spouse. Let's move ahead and talk about your education now. Education is seen from the 5th house, but the 3rd and the 8th lord is there in the 5th house, which will give rise to sweet distractions. Sweet distractions mean you are distracted, but you are not distressed. So you are going for a movie, that is a distraction. But you're not distressed, you're happy, but it is taking a toll on your education. So those kind of situations, right? So be focused. Moving ahead, talking about your career. Career is seen from the 10th house. The owner of the 10th house is going to get retrograde and come in the grips of Rahu. And therefore, I don't see a very good time as far as career is concerned. Some kind of overshadowing, some kind of tricks being played against you. This is not the right time to go in for a new job. This is the right time to be wary about what is happening around you and make your communications written and clear. Let's move ahead and talk about your business now. Now, business is seen from the 7th house. In the 7th house, we have the presence of Mars. Although through an exchange yoga, Mercury is going to be here, but then Mercury is going to have Mars and Ketu ahead of it, and therefore it is not a good time as far as business is concerned. So you need to be a little wary and you need to be sure that your payments are you're getting your payments in good time. That payments, if you can ensure your payments and then you can do those transactions, then it is not an issue at all. Now the next thing is about manifestation. The new moon in your horoscope happens to be in the 6th house, and therefore any kind of manifestation related to the 6th house signification is going to be good for you. So in case you wanted a job, a new job, or you want to change a job, in case you want to get a loan, in case you want to end enmity with some persons, then this is the right time for you. On this new moon, do the manifestation related to these significations and luck will favor you. So this is all I have for you for the month of September 2023. May God shower His immense blessings on you all throughout this month. I will meet you in the next video. Till then, this is Prabal Frank Nandwani signing off.